I was drinking coffee on my porch when I saw something that made my blood boil. A white SUV was driving down my private hunting trail. The trail my grandfather made. The trail my father showed me how to hunt on. The trail that belonged to nobody but my family. The SUV stopped and out stepped Karen Mitchell, president of our HOA. The woman who made our peaceful neighborhood into her personal kingdom. "What are you doing on my property?" I called out. She looked at me like I was dirt under her shoe. "HOA business. This trail needs inspection. This is private land. My land. Get out." She laughed. "Check your HOA agreement. We have rights to inspect all roads. This isn't a road. It's a hunting trail. Not according to our new regulations." She pulled out her clipboard. Section 15.3 says any path wide enough for vehicles falls under HOA control. I stood up. My hands were shaking. That rule didn't exist last week. We voted on it Tuesday. You should attend meetings. She smiled that fake smile. "I'll be back tomorrow with my full team." Then she drove deeper into my woods. I heard branches breaking. My deer stand, the one my father built, crashed down as her SUV hit it. I stood there watching her taillights disappear into my woods. My coffee mug shook in my hand. Not from fear. From anger. Let me tell you about Karen Mitchell. She moved to our quiet neighborhood exactly 8 months ago. Beautiful house on Maple Street. The previous owners, the Johnsons, were lovely people. They sold because Mr. Johnson got transferred to Seattle. We had a goodbye party for them. The whole neighborhood came. Then Karen arrived. First day she complained about my dog barking. Duke barks maybe twice a day. Usually at squirrels. But Karen called it noise pollution. Within 1 week she joined the HOA. Nobody thought much about it. The HOA was basically dead. Old Mr. Wilson ran it for 20 years. All he did was organize the 4th of July barbecue and make sure the stop signs got painted. Within 1 month, Karen became president. She ran unopposed because nobody else wanted the stupid job. We all had lives, jobs, families. Who has time for HOA drama? That's when our nightmare started. First came the grass measurements. She bought a special ruler. Went house to house. Grass had to be exactly 2 inches. Not 1.5. Not 2.5. Exactly 2 inches. My neighbor Joe got the first fine. His grass was 3 inches in one spot. One spot. Near his oak tree where grass grows faster. $100 fine. "This is insane," Joe told me. "It's grass. It grows." But Karen didn't care. Rules were rules. Then came the mailbox regulations. All mailboxes had to be beige. Not white. Not black. Not any color you liked. Beige. Official HOA beige. She even had a color chart. Tom across the street had a beautiful blue mailbox. His kids painted it for Father's Day. Had their handprints on it. Didn't matter. $200 fine plus the cost of a new beige mailbox. The fence rules came next. Height restrictions. Color restrictions. Style restrictions. You couldn't build a fence without HOA approval. And guess who never approved anything? Then the car rules. No work vehicles in driveways. No boats. No RVs. No trailers. Bob the plumber had to park his work van 3 blocks away. Every morning he'd walk to get it. Every night he'd walk it back. "This is America," Bob said. "I should be able to park in my own driveway." Karen didn't care about America. She cared about property values. She cared about uniformity. She cared about control. The garden regulations were the worst. No gnomes. No bird baths. No decorative stones. No solar lights. No wind chimes. Nothing that wasn't on the approved list. Mrs. Patterson, sweetest lady you'd ever meet, had a garden gnome her grandchildren gave her. Been in her garden for 10 years. Karen personally removed it. Put it in a box. Left a fine on the door. Mrs. Patterson cried. Actually cried. Over a garden gnome. But Karen was just getting started. She hired a management company. Professional rule enforcers. They drove around in a white van taking pictures, writing citations, measuring everything. Christmas decorations? Only between December 15th and January 2nd. And only white lights. Colored lights were tacky. Halloween decorations? 2 weeks maximum. Nothing scary. Nothing that might disturb people. Even the American flag had rules. Specific height. Specific lighting. Specific maintenance requirements. People started moving. The Hendersons left first. Then the Smiths. Then the Nguyen's. Good families. Good neighbors. Couldn't take the harassment anymore. New people moved in. Karen's type of people. Rule followers. Clipboard carriers. The kind who measure their neighbor's hedge height for fun. But they never bothered with my property. I lived on the edge of the development. 5 acres of woods. The hunting trail ran through the back. Been in my family since 1952. My grandfather bought it when land was cheap and men were free. Karen tried once before. Sent me a letter about my shed. Said it was too close to the property line. I sent her back a survey from 1952. Official document. Showed the shed was grandfathered in. She backed off. Until now. Driving her SUV down my private trail. Breaking my deer stand. Claiming HOA authority over my family's land. That night I sat with Linda, my wife. We'd been married 32 years. She knew my moods. Knew when I was planning something. Don't do anything stupid, she said. Define stupid. Anything that gets you arrested. What about anything that gets her to leave us alone? Linda looked at me. Really looked at me. Do what you have to do. I'm tired of that woman too. Linda's garden used to be beautiful. Roses. Tulips. Butterfly bushes. Now it was empty. Karen had cited her for unauthorized plantings. Made her tear everything out. That night I went to my workshop. I had an idea. The workshop was my sanctuary. Tools hanging on pegboards. Welding equipment in the corner. Workbench scarred from 40 years of projects. This is where I fix things. Where I build things. Where I solve problems. And Karen Mitchell was definitely a problem. I started with research. Legal research. Turns out, booby-trapping your property is illegal. If someone gets hurt, you're liable. Even if they're trespassing. But what if it's not a booby trap? What if it's just debris? Old metal that happens to be sharp? Accidentally left in the road? I smiled. Started gathering materials. The spike strip took all night to build. I used old roofing nails from when I patched the barn. The rebar from a construction project. A railroad spikes I'd collected as a kid. Some twisted metal from a car accident I'd cleaned up. I welded it all together. Made it look random. Natural. Like someone had dumped construction waste. But the spikes were perfectly spaced. Perfect height. Perfect angle. By morning I had a beautiful piece of accidental road hazard. Linda made breakfast. Bacon and eggs. Black coffee. She saw my tired eyes. Finished? Almost. Be careful. Always am. After breakfast I took my creation to the trail. Found the perfect spot. Where the path narrows between 2 massive oak trees. No way around it. You drive through or you don't drive at all. I dug a shallow trench. Laid the spike strip. Covered it with dirt and leaves. Stepped back to admire my work. Perfect. Invisible. Deadly to tires. Then I went home and waited. Karen showed up at 10 a.m. sharp. This time she brought the cavalry. 2 other board members, Janet Hughes and Martin Flores. Plus a guy with a camera. Official HOA photographer apparently. They started at the trail entrance. Taking pictures. Making notes. Drawing diagrams. Karen pointed at everything. My no trespassing signs. My deer feeder. The wooden bridge over the creek. All of this needs to be brought up to code, she announced. What code? I called from my porch. HOA safety standards, she said. We'll be issuing a full report. Then she got back in her SUV. I'll drive through and document the entire trail. Janet and Martin looked nervous. Maybe we should walk, Janet suggested. Nonsense, Karen said. I need to test if emergency vehicles can access this area. Emergency vehicles. On my hunting trail. The woman was insane. She started driving. I sipped my coffee. Counted down in my head. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bang. The first tire exploded like a gunshot. Her SUV lurched sideways. Bang. Bang. 2 more down. She hit the brakes. Bang. 4th tire gone. Her pristine white SUV sat there like a beached whale. Steam rising from the radiator. Fluids dripping onto my trail. I walked over slowly. Innocent face. Concerned citizen. Goodness, Karen. What happened? She jumped out, face red as a fire truck. You did this. Did what? I looked at her tires. Oh wow. Looks like you hit something. These old trails are full of junk. That's why I don't drive on them. There are spikes in the road. Really? That's dangerous. Someone should clean those up. I shook my head. Good thing you found them before someone got hurt. Janet and Martin ran over. The photographer kept taking pictures. Document everything. That was the HOA way. Should we call the police? Martin asked. Yes. Karen screamed. Call them. This is attempted murder. Murder? I laughed. Karen, you're being dramatic. You hit some old metal. Happens all the time in the woods. The police came. 2 officers. Davis and Rodriguez. I knew Davis from poker night at the VFW. Good man. Fair man. What's the situation? Davis asked. Karen pointed at me like I was public enemy number 1. He put spikes on the road. He destroyed my vehicle. Davis examined the scene. Saw the spike strip. Looked at me. Looked at Karen. Ma'am, is this your property? No, but. Is it Mr. Johnson's property? Yes, but the HOA has easement rights? We're establishing them. So you don't currently have legal access? Karen's face went darker. Officer, I am the president of the Homeowners Association. We have authority. On HOA property, Davis interrupted. This is private property. You were trespassing. But the spikes. Can you prove Mr. Johnson put them there? Who else would it be? Davis shrugged. Could be old construction debris. Illegal dumping. These woods get all kinds of junk. Without evidence, I can't arrest anyone. Rodriguez was taking notes. Ma'am, did Mr. Johnson give you permission to drive on his property? I don't need permission. Actually, I said, you do. It's called property law. Been around longer than HOAs. Davis nodded. He's right. You can't just drive on private property without permission. Even if there are hazards. This is outrageous. Karen screamed. I'll sue. I'll have your badges. That's your right, Davis said calmly. But right now, you need to get your vehicle off Mr. Johnson's property. The tow truck took 3 hours. 3 beautiful hours. Word spread fast in our neighborhood. Someone hit spikes on Johnson's trail. Karen Mitchell stuck in the woods. They came like pilgrims. Joe with his measuring tape. Checking if the tow truck is regulation height, he joked. Tom brought his kids. Educational field trip, he said. Learning about cause and effect. Bob parked his work van right in his driveway. Emergency parking situation, he explained. Mrs. Patterson showed up with cookies and lemonade. Set up a folding table. People get hungry watching justice, she said. Even the new neighbors came. The ones who followed Karen's rules. They stood at a distance. Watching. Learning. Karen spent those 3 hours on her phone. Calling lawyers. Calling city officials. Calling anyone who would listen. Nobody seemed very interested. The photographer kept taking pictures. Evidence, I guess. I offered him a cookie. He took 2. When the tow truck finally arrived, everyone cheered. Like it was a parade. Karen's SUV, wounded and defeated, dragged away on chains. She had to ride with the tow truck driver. Before she left, she turned to me. This isn't over. I know, I said. You'll probably send me a bill for the tires. I'll do worse than that. I'll ruin you. I smiled. Get in line. Better people than you have tried. She left. The crowd dispersed. But the story was just beginning. The next week was quiet. Too quiet. I knew Karen was planning something. You don't become HOA president by giving up easy. The first letter came Monday. Official HOA letterhead. Thick envelope. Multiple pages. Violation notices. Fines. Threats. She'd found 17 violations on my property. Some real creative ones too. Unauthorized wildlife feeding station, my dear feeder. Substandard trail maintenance. Hazardous debris accumulation. Failure to maintain proper emergency vehicle access. Creating attractive nuisance conditions. Total fines, $8,500. I threw it in the trash. Tuesday brought a certified letter. Same violations. Bigger threats. Legal action. Property liens. Asset seizure. I threw that away too. Wednesday she sent her lawyer. Nervous young guy in a cheap suit. Handed me papers at my door. Mr. Johnson, I represent the Meadowbrook Homeowners Association. We need to discuss these violations. No, we don't. Sir, this is serious. The HOA has significant legal powers. Over HOA property. This is private property. The HOA charter clearly states. Son, I interrupted. How old are you? 26. I've owned this land longer than you've been alive. My father owned it before me. You think some HOA charter changes that? He adjusted his tie. The law is complex. No, it's not. This is my land. That trail is my trail. Your client trespassed. Hit some debris. Now she's mad. End of story. Mr. Johnson, we could resolve this amicably. We could. Karen could apologize for trespassing. Pay for my damaged deer stand. Then leave me alone forever. The lawyer blinked. I don't think she'll agree to that. Then we're done talking. He left. But I knew they'd be back. Thursday brought the city inspector. Code enforcement. Nice older guy named Frank. Got a complaint, he said. Need to check your property. From the HOA? Yep. Find anything? Frank looked around. Checked his list. Smiled. Your shed's 2 inches too close to the property line. That shed's been there since 1965. I know. It's grandfathered. But I have to write something. He scribbled on his pad. There. Shed noted. Have a nice day. That's it. What else would there be? Your property's clean. Better than most. He leaned in closer. Between you and me, that HOA lady's been calling us every day. We're getting tired of it. Friday was quiet. I thought maybe Karen had given up. I was wrong. Saturday morning, I woke to find surveyor stakes all over my property. Orange flags. White paint. Official-looking markers. I called my lawyer. My real lawyer. Not some kid in a cheap suit. Richardson had been handling property law for 40 years. They're claiming easement rights, he said after reviewing the documents. Trying to establish historical use. Can they do that? They can try. Won't succeed. I've got your original deed. Your grandfather's purchase agreement. 50 years of tax records showing private ownership. He chuckled. This is amateur hour. But Karen wasn't done with amateur moves. She was going pro. The next HOA meeting was a war council. The community center was packed. Standing room only. Karen sat at the head table like a queen holding court. First order of business, she announced. The Johnson property situation. She had a PowerPoint. Pictures of my property. The spike strip. Her damaged SUV. Graphics showing property values. Charts about safety concerns. This reckless disregard for community standards cannot continue, she said. I motion to authorize legal action against Mr. Johnson. Second, shouted Janet Hughes. I stood up. Point of order. You're not recognized, Karen snapped. I'm a homeowner. I have the right to speak. Not about matters involving your own violations. What violations? The ones on my private property? That you found while trespassing? Murmurs from the crowd. People shifting in their seats. Joe stood up. I'd like to hear what he has to say. Me too, said Tom. And me, added Mrs. Patterson. Soon half the room was standing. The other half, Karen's supporters, who remained seated. You could see the divide. Old neighbors versus new. Freedom lovers versus rule followers. Karen banged her gavel. Order. Order. Let him speak, someone shouted. This is a dictatorship, yelled another. The meeting devolved into chaos. People arguing, shouting, pointing fingers. Karen kept banging her gavel until the head flew off. Perfect metaphor. Finally, Martin Flores, the least confrontational board member, spoke up. Maybe we should table this discussion. Let cooler heads prevail. Table it. Karen shrieked. He assaulted me. He assaulted your tires, Joe clarified. Big difference. Laughter from my side of the room. Glares from Karen's side. The meeting ended without a vote. But the battle lines were drawn. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about the soul of our neighborhood. The next few weeks were guerrilla warfare. Karen used every weapon in her HOA arsenal. Daily violation notices. Constant inspections. Threatening letters. Intimidation tactics. I responded with my own campaign. Know Your Rights flyers. Property law seminars. Neighborhood barbecues. Strategic non-compliance. The tide started turning. People who'd been afraid of Karen began standing up. Joe planted a non-regulation garden. Tom painted his mailbox red. Bob parked his van in his driveway. And Mrs. Patterson bought a dozen garden gnomes. Karen retaliated with more fines. More threats. More rules. But something had changed. People weren't scared anymore. They were angry. The revolution started at another HOA meeting. Tom made a motion to limit fines to actual HOA property. It passed 35-30. Karen was furious but couldn't override a majority vote. She tried to adjourn the meeting. People refused to leave. Joe made another motion, term limits for board members. 2 years maximum. It passed 40-25. Mrs. Patterson, sweet Mrs. Patterson, made the killing blow. I motioned to recall Karen Mitchell as HOA president. The room exploded. Karen screamed about coups and conspiracies. Her supporters rallied. My supporters pushed back. The vote was called. Secret ballot. Everyone wrote their choice, folded their paper, dropped it in the box. Martin counted. Janet supervised. Karen paced like a caged animal. The results: 51 for recall, 19 against. Karen was out. She didn't go quietly. Screamed about lawsuits. Promised revenge. Stormed out slamming doors. But she was done. The tyrant had fallen. Tom became interim president. His first act: cancel all pending fines against me. His second: acknowledge the hunting trail as private property. His third: apologize for the HOA's overreach. But Karen wasn't finished. The personal attack started. Nasty letters to my employer. False complaints to animal control. Bogus reports to child services. Anonymous threats. I documented everything. Built a harassment case. Richardson filed for a restraining order. The hearing was beautiful. Karen showed up with 3 lawyers. I had Richardson and a box of evidence. The judge, a no-nonsense woman named Harper, reviewed everything. The trespassing. The spikes. The harassment. The false reports. Mrs. Mitchell, she said, it appears you've engaged in a pattern of harassment against Mr. Johnson. He destroyed my vehicle. On his private property. Where you were trespassing. The HOA has rights. At. Past tense. According to these documents, you're no longer HOA president. Karen sputtered. Her lawyers objected. Judge Harper wasn't impressed. I'm granting the restraining order. Mrs. Mitchell, you're to stay 500 feet away from Mr. Johnson, his property, and his family. This is injustice. No, Judge Harper said. This is consequences. The order was granted. Karen was legally required to leave me alone. But she still lived in the neighborhood. Still attended meetings. Still caused problems. Until the FBI showed up. Turns out, Karen had been embezzling HOA funds. All those fines she collected? Not all of them made it to the HOA account. Some went to her personal account. Some paid for her SUV. Some funded her lawyer fees. Tom discovered it during an audit. Found discrepancies. Missing money. Altered records. He called the authorities. The investigation took months. But the evidence was overwhelming. Karen had stolen over $45,000 in 3 years. Federal crime. Wire fraud. Tax evasion. They arrested her on a Tuesday morning. I was having coffee on my porch when the black SUVs pulled up. Agents in suits. Handcuffs. The whole show. Karen saw me watching. Our eyes met. She looked defeated. Broken. Almost pitiful. I raised my coffee mug in salute. She looked away. They drove her off in custody. Her house went up for sale within a month. The new owners are nice. Young couple. They like the neighborhood's new relaxed atmosphere. The HOA still exists but barely. Tom runs it like it should be run. Fix street lights. Maintain common areas. Organize social events. Leave people alone. No more measuring grass. No more mailbox police. No more tyranny. My hunting trail is peaceful again. The deer came back. I fixed the stand. Even added improvements. The spike strip? Still there. Buried under leaves and dirt. A monument to resistance. A reminder that some things are worth fighting for. Sometimes I walk the trail in early morning. Coffee in one hand. Rifle in the other. I stop at that narrow spot between the oaks. Look at the ground. Remember. Linda says I should dig it up. Says the war's over. Says it's time to move on. Maybe she's right. But maybe not. Because there's always another Karen out there. Another tyrant with a clipboard. Another busybody who thinks rules matter more than freedom. And when they come, and they always come, I'll be ready. The trail taught me something. Taught us all something. That freedom isn't free. That property rights matter. That sometimes you have to fight back. Even if it means planting spikes on your own land. Even if it means standing up to the HOA. Even if it means being called crazy. Because in the end, crazy is better than controlled. Free is better than fined. And spikes are better than surrender. That's my story. How I fought the HOA and won. How our neighborhood found its soul again. How Karen Mitchell learned that some trails aren't meant to be driven on. The hunting trail is mine. Been mine for 40 years. Will be mine for 40 more. And if anyone wants to dispute that, well, they better watch their tires. Because the spikes remember. The trail remembers. And so do I. Justice was served. Not in a courtroom. Not in a meeting. But on a narrow trail between 2 oak trees, where 4 tires met their match and a tyrant met her defeat. Some battles are won with words. Some with votes. some with lawyers. Mine was one with a welding torch and a shovel. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat.